Om Shri Sai Ram. We offer our most loving pranams at Bhagawan's lotus feet. Dear viewers, we are glad to join you again in continuation of a satsang that we did some time back. We were going through the very interesting conversation between Shri Karanjia, a professional journalist who had the opportunity to come and speak with Swami. It is often said that it is through questioning and good questioning that the truth is revealed, be it in science or in any other field. It is the questions that you ask, even in economics, they say. The questions that you ask will allow the data to reveal the truth. Similarly, in science, the kind of questions that you ask will bring the knowledge out. And here we are seeing that this scientist, or rather journalist, is having a conversation with Swami. And through this conversation, we have found some very insightful truths being revealed by Swami. In the first part, when we discussed a few of the questions that he had put to Swami, I think it was more introductory because Swami spoke about the concept of an avatar and then specifically about the purpose of the Sai avatar or the trinity of the Sai avatar. Then Swami spoke about some aspects of the avatar which are very unique to Swami, that is the materializations, the purpose and reason behind Swami giving talismans. And Swami then spoke about the importance of vibhuti. So we found some very interesting conversations. Of course, it also gave us the opportunity to recollect some beautiful episodes from Swami's life, from the various sources that we've had the opportunity to come through. So we are going to continue with that conversation. Dear listeners, I think it was a rather long interview that Swami had granted him. We have this term interview used more generically for any audience that Swami gives devotees. In Telugu, that room used to be called Korika room, right? Which means Korika means desire or wishes that you place before Swami. But in English, Swami would call it the interview room. Swami would say, I'll give you an interview. Swami himself would use that term. But here is an interview in the true sense, where Swami is allowing a journalist to put questions to him. And we are going to continue those conversations. As I said, it's one long interview. Again, very important questions. What these questions are going to do is, first of all, it is going to give us an insight into Swami's avatarhood. And the other thing is, what is the purpose that Swami has chosen for himself in stepping into our lives and into society in general? Because we not only have a commitment to ourselves as spiritual aspirants when we have come to Swami, but we also have a role to play in society. We also have a duty to society, having been blessed with the opportunity of being in the company of Bhagawan. So what is that role that Swami envisioned for the devotees at large? I think a bit of that is also going to be revealed through this. So dear listeners, with prayers to Swami, let's begin or continue with this interesting conversation that Mr. Karanjia had with Swami, which later he published as a book, very interestingly titled as God Lives in India. So over to our brothers here, Bishu and Prakash. Let's delve into these wonderful questions and answers.
Yeah, I think in the previous episodes of this satsang, we took up those questions, what he asked about the advent of the avatar, about the acts of the avatar, like the materializations. And then subsequently, Mr. Karanjia becomes more courageous and he asks questions which normally people would tend to ask once you are face to face with God. Oh, if there is God, then why is there poverty? If there is God, then why is there war? If there is God, then why doesn't he solve all these problems? Why does he make the rich rich? Why does he make the poor poor? And all these questions which slowly came out. So one of the questions was precisely this. Swami, why is it that we have so many natural calamities? You are the avatar. He has now come to a stage where Swami revealed that he is the divine in human form, and Mr. Karanjia has already absorbed that fact. So now he's telling Swami, when you are there, then why is it that we have all these natural calamities? Why do we have famine? Why do we have drought? Why do we have floods? And why can't you stop all this? And that's when Swami says, what makes you feel that I'm not doing anything? Swami says, see, there are two ways an avatar can help people when they are faced with such situations. One is an instant solution and the other is a long-term one. And as I was reading this, what came to mind is an analogy. Suppose you take the T20 match, a cricket match. We know that T20 has 20 overs, and the match is a very important one, and probably a finals, and you have 1 over left, you have 36 runs to be done, and there is so much of tension, there is so much of pressure. Now the batting side has a very big mountain to climb, and it really seems very, very difficult, it seems very challenging, and it doesn't seem like they will be able to make it. So only way they can make it is perhaps if by some stroke of luck something happens, or if you think about it, if mysteriously suddenly another over is added, okay, or mysteriously suddenly their target from 36 comes down to 12, then it seems, yeah, it can happen, okay. Or the other solution is they go through the whole thing. Yeah, perhaps they don't win it, they lose it. But in that loss, there is so much gain, because then they go back, then they introspect. Why is it that we reduced ourselves to such a situation? Why is it that we were left with 6 balls, 36 runs? Why is it that we didn't plan our innings well? Why didn't the batsman who went earlier did not do much when there was a power play? When you have fielding restrictions, that's when you should have scored. Why is it that we lost our batsman to careless shots? So when that introspection happens, then next time there is a match, they will know, okay, this is how we should bat, this is how we should plan, this is how perhaps we should practice. When we practice, it is not just these things. We have to not just be good at our skill, we have to be very good at managing our skill. We should be very good at how we can pace our innings. So I think that loss is a very, very powerful learning experience, and it's never a loss. So I feel in the same way, whenever these calamities happen, if, for example, going back to that analogy, if you suddenly introduce a special over, it will be against the rule of the game. It is not how cricket is played. So it is against the fundamental nature of how cricket has been played for years. So in the same way, as Swami says, see, if I do something where I simply intervene, it will definitely be against the fundamental law of nature. There is something called the karmic law of cause and effect. I will not do anything which deviates from that, but I will help you. It's very, very important that you go through that process, so that if you know that whatever you do, you have to reap the fruit of your actions. Through that process, there will be your evolution. Through that process, you will learn that this is how I need to grow. This is how I need to manage my life. This is how I need to maintain my relationship with another person, with nature, with everything that God has given us, with society. And Swami says, once man realizes there is this karmic law of cause and effect, and everything is happening because in some way, somewhere, our desires, our ego, they have all been compromised. Once that learning happens, only then that evolution happens. And Swami says, once that evolution happens, you don't allow the game to take over you. You can take over the game. A very powerful statement that Swami says is, what I am trying to do is I am making people shareholders of my Sankalpa Shakti. And I think that's a very, very powerful statement. See, when you have a company, and if you want to own the company, you can own the company to the extent of the share you hold. And Swami is telling, see, what I'm trying to do is I'm raising the consciousness of people, because I'm telling them, see, this is how the game should be played. And if you do this, you will not just be a player, you will become the master of the game. You can become an owner of the company, you can become a shareholder of my Shakti. You can become a channel of my power. And I am arousing the God power in them, Swami says, so that they are aware of a higher reality, so that they can master natural law and forces. And Swami says that is the way, that is the long-term solution. There is no instant solution for man's evolution. For society's evolution, you need a long-term solution. And we know, as Einstein said, that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And what Swami said to Mr. Karanjia is this: that is exactly what I am doing. I am trying to see that there is this evolution in man so that man does not commit these mistakes. Because if there is an instant solution and man has not learned the mistakes, suppose in the cricket match, suddenly some miracle happens and you win, then you don't know where you have to grow. You don't know what mistakes you did. So it's very important that this growth happens, because otherwise you will again make a mess of the situation. You will again make a mess of what God has given you in this world. And I think that's a very, very powerful statement that Swami makes. For me, that's a very, very important thing to ponder on. Swami says, I want everyone to become shareholders of my Sankalpa Shakti, isn't it?
Amazing, because in a sense, it is almost Swami is like opening up a secret book with the rules of creation and of cause and effect, and he is revealing all the nuances of what it is. One statement which Swami made here, he says, most people live in the material world of their desires and egos, which is governed by this law. So as long as you are within that realm of ego and desires, you are bound by this law, and you are actually victims of the law. Yeah. So the Swami uses the word, you're actually victims of this cause and effect law. But we all have heard of karma theory, and we have heard of what it actually entails. But Swami goes on to give little more detail here, which adds a new dimension, and it actually adds 2-3 different dimensions to this whole idea. He says, suffering and misery are inescapable acts of the cosmic drama. God does not decree these calamities, but man invites them by way of retribution for his own evil deeds. This is corrective punishment, which induces mankind to give up the wrong path and return to the right path, so that he may experience the God-like condition of Satchitananda. All this is a part of the grand synthesis in which the negative serves to glorify the positives. Thus, death glorifies immortality, ignorance glorifies wisdom, misery glorifies bliss, and night glorifies dawn. I think there are 3 separate points that Swami is giving us in this passage. One is the karma theory, which we all think of as like a business. You put in good, you get back good, you put bad, you get bad. That is basically the bottom line of it, but it is much more complicated than just that. And then the second thing is where Swami is talking about to experience your true nature, that is Satchitananda. And the third point is very interesting, because he says every negative thing that you see in the world is also a positive thing, because that is what gives you the positive growth. So I thought, let's just go quickly into a little bit of what the karma theory is. If you were to think of one aspect of the karma theory, certain actions have direct consequences. Certain actions have immediate effects. Like, for example, we know deforestation has caused global warming. Then, when there are floods, that was actually a catchment area which we have cut out all the trees and we have built. So water naturally flows and floods that area. But there are natural calamities like volcanoes and earthquakes for which we are not able to find direct logical reasons. What actions of ours would have actually caused a volcano or an earthquake? We are not able to correlate. So we cannot say that those natural calamities are not because of human actions. Swami says all calamities are because of human actions. So karma theory is, after all, not as straightforward as we think it is. And the second aspect which comes to mind is individual versus collective. Swami gives the example of, if one mosquito bites you, you spray and then you kill so many mosquitoes. And oftentimes it is individual karmas that reflects on everybody, that society, how everybody is going through that. There is a very interesting conversation from the book I Am That with the master Nisargadatta Maharaj, where somebody is asking him about this cause and effect, the karma theory. And he says, see, it is not very straightforward. You should not You should not keep that in mind while doing actions. It's not a business transaction. You cannot say, okay, now I have done this much good, so I should get back this much good. So then they ask, what do you mean? And he gives a very beautiful analogy. He says, see, if we were to consider who is responsible for your birth, and you would say, yes, my parents are responsible for my birth. So then he says, can you say with certainty that the earth is not responsible for your birth? Where would your parents be if the earth didn't exist? And can you say with certainty that the sun is not responsible for your birth? Because if there is no sun, there's no earth. If there's no earth, there's no parents. So he says, in essence, the whole universe is responsible for everything that happens. So the system is so tightly knit that, everything is interlinked. It is not like my karma, I do, I experience. We all are part of the society. Then going on to the another aspect of what karma theory is, oftentimes we say, okay, why is this person suffering? Or why is this person, how is he having such a good time? It is not an instant reaction. It's not an instant fulfillment of your actions. So as we all know, there is this three types: Sanchita karma, Prarabdha karma, Agami karma. Sanchita karma is all the karma that you have merits or demerits that you acquired from births, from several births. So that is there in your bag. So you have to experience that. And when one of those karmas actually comes to fruition, at that point in time, in the present moment, that is prarabdha karma. And then agami karma is what karma you create by doing actions now. So when you look at sanchita karma, for example, here very beautifully you are mentioning how Swami doesn't interfere. Swami doesn't interfere and change, because if he interferes and changes, then the whole lesson is not learnt. The lesson is not learned and we just continue doing. So if you take Sanchita Karma, there's a beautiful incident, just an incident from the book Satyasa Anandadai, where, in those days there were hardly about 15 to 20 people around Swami in the Patha Mandiram, in the old Mandiram, and they would cook and they would offer their food to Swami, and Swami would come and taste from all of them and, make all of them happy. They noticed that Swami was avoiding the food cooked by a particular family. Swami was not going there and he was not tasting their food. So they were wondering what it is. And then when they asked Swami, Swami says, see, what can I do? These people have not had belief in God for the last 7 generations. He said, for the last 7 generations, they have not believed in God. So how can I go and partake of food that they have cooked? So, it's Sanchita karma. It's karma that has been carried forward from so many births. Then if you look at Agami karma also, he says there's another incident about food and Swami in the Patha Mandiram. There was, I believe, a very wealthy lady who had come and brought some snacks to be offered to Swami. Swami was having that pan box which he used to have with him, and they offered these snacks. And Swami took a snack and then put it under the, probably like a pakoda or something, just put it under the pan box. And he took a betel nut and put it in his mouth. And the lady was thinking that he took this prasadam. And Swami said, now you can distribute this as prasadam. And she took it and went away. But the others were wondering, why did Swami do this? And Swami said, see, she made her helpers work very hard for this. See, the spirit in which you do the action, you want to offer something to Swami, do it lovingly. She has really made the workers work very hard. So Swami says, then how can I accept it? So karma is not as straightforward as we think. So the first part of the statement where Swami says that, suffering and misery, what we experience today, is because of our karmas. But it is not like a one-on-one equation. It is very more complex. And the second aspect is, he says, what is the lesson that you learn from this whole karma and these actions that we are doing? Very beautifully, Swami says, we are bound by action the moment we are born as a human being. And in the Gita Vahini, Swami says, Krishna says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. He doesn't say na phaleshu kadachana. He says, what's the difference? Ma phaleshu means do not consider the fruits of action as your own. Na phaleshu means do not consider the fruits of action. It's almost impossible for us to act not considering the fruit of actions. Because if you're hungry, you eat because you want to satiate your hunger. So you are looking for a result. So it's not right to say that you should act without expecting the results. But do not make the results yours. Offer it to the Lord. And then that is the crux of this entire karma theory. Like when you act, so it's like the cricket analogy that you said. You have to play within the rules, and you have to do your duty. You have to do the duty of a player. And within those rules, if you're able to win the game, it is all right. Okay, so if you play within the rules, whatever lessons you learn, whether you lose or win, is only a bonus for you, isn't it? So that is the second point. That is the point about what is it that leads us to this experiencing this true nature of Satchitananda. That is doing your actions aligning with divine design and doing your duty so that His will prevails. Whatever happens in your life is in alignment with His will. And the last part, which is I found very, very interesting in that statement, where he says that even the negative which is there is a part of the grand synthesis in which the negatives serve to glorify the positives. Thus, death glorifies immortality, ignorance glorifies wisdom, misery glorifies bliss, and night glorifies dawn. Now, this is something very, very interesting, because the first thing that comes to mind is you cannot judge anybody. You cannot judge anything. You cannot say, oh my God, I'm going through such a difficult time. That difficult time is possibly your greatest friend, and it is possibly your greatest teacher, because that is what is going to open your eyes. And Swami used to say this, beautiful passage. He says, yes annavariki, yes anura. No annavariki, no anura. Yes and no are for you, but Sai ki sarvam, yes, yes, yes. That means whether you're going through happiness or you're going through difficulty, whatever you go through, it is only a positive at the end. The lesson is always learnt. You're always moving ahead. And I think another very beautiful analogy which Swami gives, just to highlight this point, because it's a very interesting point. He says, everything that you see is good. There's nothing like good and bad, and it's not, in fact, negative is something which helps you more and all that. So he says, for example, a person who is brave, who is courageous, he invents the aeroplane. Okay, a person who's courageous, he invents the aeroplane, and the aeroplane is very helpful for all of us. We use the aeroplane. But a person who is a coward, he invents the parachute. So he says, but even the parachute is important, because that also helps you. So in that sense, in this grand scheme of cause and effect, when you align yourself with what your actual duty is, then I think the learning is faster. But otherwise, you have to go through the negatives, you have to go through failures, and probably you learn in this lifetime or several lifetimes to come.
Right. I think the whole point, the question which was asked, going back to that, and probably we'll summarize this question and the answer that Swami gave. He asks that why doesn't Sai Baba help people in distress, bringing rains in the times of drought or creating food where there is famine? That was the question, and basically it's a question at God's compassion.
Right.
Because they ask us if there is a God. If there is a God, and you often describe him as a compassionate and Karuna Sagara and all of that, then how can there be suffering in the world? Right? So it's a question on the veracity of whether God can be compassionate when there are people suffering. It's a very interesting thing. How do you define compassion? If there is somebody starving in front of me, and me going and feeding them is compassion, right? But that compassion is limited to my knowledge of that situation.
Correct.
The compassion of a doctor who's treating the patient is very different from the compassion I would have to a person who is in pain. Right? A doctor might look at it and say that, no, this is a good pain. Right? This means that the treatment is working. Or the doctor might say that, no, you are supposed to be fasting for these many hours, because then the surgery, you're prepared for that. So the way compassion is defined changes based on the knowledge of the person showing the compassion. Right? So when you ask, is God compassionate? The question is, what is he trying to achieve? Right? And I always fall back to the example of a role a teacher plays. Imagine the teacher who taught me the subject ends up as being the invigilator in the exam I'm giving. The teacher not helping me in the exam does not mean the teacher is not compassionate.
Exactly, right.
Right? The compassion that teacher shows during the class when the subject is being taught is different from the compassion the teacher will show when she comes as an invigilator. At that time, perhaps, probably the best thing to do is let me do the mistake and learn the lesson. Right? And it's very beautiful what Swami says is, I'm trying to raise people to my Sankalpa. What does a teacher try to do? He or she comes and tries to raise you to their level of knowledge.
Right.
Right? I'm a master of a subject. And if you're a student, I'm trying to make you as much as I'm a master of this subject. Right? So the whole idea is that I am trying to teach you, to raise you to my level of consciousness. And this game has a rule, as Swami says, just like how an exam system is a rule that hopefully facilitates learning. Right? There is a subject that needs to be learned, and the system that has been put in place is at the end of a semester, at the end of a year, you will be tested. You will be given positive marks for right answers, negative markings for bad answers, and then a total will be taken, and then you'll be graded, and we'll see whether you're suitable to go to the next class or the other. Similarly, in this cosmic drama, in trying to learn, in trying to raise ourselves to that level of divinity, the game has this rule, good for good and bad for bad. Right? And if this rule is played, there will be times when there will be calamities which come to you. There will be times when goodness which we cannot measure comes to us. Right? We never question that.
Right.
We never question that at all. When something really good happens to us, we always claim it as ourselves. But only when bad happens, we always ask, why me? Why did this happen to me? Both of it happens, right? Calamity also comes unannounced. Sometimes luck also, fortune also comes unannounced. And that is the game, right? So Swami says, if I were to step in and start messing up with this game, I might save you of a little bit of pain in the process. But the learning for which this whole game was created will never happen, right? And if he's going to do that, that is when he is not compassionate.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? If he is not allowing us to grow. Imagine if I have a teacher who feels that, my student should not become as good as me. That is a bad teacher. But if a teacher comes and says that whatever happens, I have to raise my student to the level, as good as me or even as better as me, that person is a good teacher, right? So when you look at the compassion of God, it is in him letting us suffer sometimes. But very beautifully and very clearly, Swami says, if the avatar brings calamities mentioned by you to an immediate end, which I can do, he says, right? And do when there is a great need. The whole drama of creation with its karmic law will collapse. But he makes it very clear, it's not that I cannot do it, I can do, and I also do it.
Right.
And because sometimes we have messed up the game so badly that we need the, like how it happens in wrestling or boxing bouts. The referee will have to step in and say, okay, take a pause now, right?
Yeah.
I can't let this, duel go to the logical conclusion. I stop it now. Let's restart. Right? I think, so Swami is saying that I can step in and correct these things, but I do it only when I feel it serves the purpose of that learning which is to be got at the end of it. So very, very beautiful answer, and as you said, so wonderfully Swami summarizes that, suffering and misery are inescapable. At some point you have to accept that this is corrective punishment.
Yes.
Right? This is not God being upset with you or God saying that you did something wrong and you suffer it. I always think of it this way. Imagine I'm having some kind of an ailment. I go to a doctor and the doctor says, you shouldn't eat something. You shouldn't eat fruits after this time. If I were to go and eat fruits, the doctor is not going to come and punch me in my stomach. Right? My body itself will punish me for not obeying medical advice that was given to me. Similarly, it is not God coming and punishing us when we don't follow the rules. The system has been created. If you don't follow the rules, the system will punish you, and when he comes and tells you don't do this or do this, it is so that we can escape from that the rule playing out and punishing us in that process. So Swami says, this is part of the corrective punishment which induces mankind to give up the wrong path and return to the right path is part of the rule. And then he says, this is a grand synthesis, as you said, in which the negatives highlight the positive. Right? We never see this. Swami will always say that, when you eat something spicy, then when you eat something sweet, you enjoy that. And when you have a whole day of hard work, then the rest has meaning.
Right.
Swami would always say that. And then he says, finally, the avatar brings the calamities mentioned by you. If he does this of bringing it to an immediate end, then this will lead to the collapse of the whole system. And then finally, he says, remember, these calamities occur not because of what God has made of man.
Yes.
But really because of what man has made of man. Right? What a beautiful statement that is. Therefore, man has to be unmade and remade with his ego destroyed and replaced by a transcendental consciousness so that he may rise above the karmic cycle. Come to that state where he's in command of this whole karma law, whatever it is. This actually shows divine compassion. Right? When we question the compassion of God, when we see calamities around, it only means that we don't understand the level of his compassion. His compassion is not to give us relief. His compassion is to take us to a state where we will not require anybody to come and give us relief.
Just one insight. Again, going back to that book, I Am That, by Nisargadatta Maharaj, there's a question. What is the best way to help another person? So the question is, what is the best way to help another person? And so people give various answers. Just like you mentioned, if you feed the hungry, again he's going to feel hungry after some time. So what is it that you should do to help a person permanently? So he says, the best way to help another person is to put that person beyond the need for help.
Right?
So that is the ultimate good. And
that's the whole idea. A teacher teaches you so that you won't need a teacher again.
You won't need the teacher. So
a doctor treats you so that you won't need the doctor.
So he says that is what the avatar is doing. This is the work of the avatar which I am presently doing. I am raising you to that level where you are beyond the cycle of cause and effect.
No, I think when you are talking about compassion and how, in our limited minds, we are trying to measure God's compassion. Just reminded of how there was this brother who was serving Swami, and, he had this opportunity to take letters from devotees. One Swami is in his residence. So he had this opportunity. He could go to Swami and say, Swami, this devotee has come, this staff has come, or this person who has been an inmate of the Prasanthi ashram has come and he has a problem and he wants to present a letter. This is after Bhagawan has retired, after evening bhajans. So when often he would go to Bhagawan with his prayers, say, Swami, this person has come. So often Swami would say, okay, you bring the letter. So when he goes with that message, and he brings that letter and Swami reads and then, Swami gives prasadam, then everybody is happy. He also feels so great that he was an instrument in conferring that happiness, that relief. Because if somebody is approaching Bhagavan at that hour and in that situation, it is out of desperation. Otherwise they would try to do it during darshan time. But there are occasions when Swami would not give him permission to accept the letter. And it would be a very, very difficult thing for him to go and communicate that, because already that person is really in a very desperate condition. He's already sad. And now when you go and say that, sorry, I cannot take a letter, it's like, that person feels even God has forsaken me. God has also closed his door on me. And now many times he used to feel, did I not do my job well? The brother who has to communicate this. So one day he said, Swami, this really pains me, Swami, because how do I go and tell this person? And many times I feel maybe, I as a medium didn't do my job well. And how do I not get affected with this? And Swami says that I know your heart is beating for that other person. Compassion is oozing out of your heart for that person. But don't you think my compassion is 1,000 million times more than yours? If I have decided that for that person, know this, that your relationship with that person is limited to that extent. But my relationship with that person goes down to so many years, so many janmas. I am doing what is the best thing to be done for that person. You do what is the best thing that you should do. Then that will not affect you. If you have got this task to do, you do it with utmost humility. You think how I can communicate this so that that person does not get hurt, and without any judgment. It happens many times that, okay, Swami accepted this person, so this person is a nice person. Oh, Swami did not accept this person. Then we have our own judgment. So this person is not a nice person. God also did not take letter from him. We come up with our own ways of evaluating people and our own ways of dealing with understanding God's actions. So Swami is saying, you do your job well. How this will react on you depends on with what mentality you do your job. And then how this will affect that person depends on how he takes it. If that person feels that, God, even I am here for so many years and I have been serving in Swami's institution, I have given so much of my youth, my life, my wealth, everything I have given, I have come to Parthi, Swami also did not look after me. If he gets into that kind of a feeling, then it's a loss for him. He's not understood that lesson there. How he takes it, that will decide his future karma. How you do your job, that will decide your karma. But what is the bottom line? The bottom line is God is doing everything that is needed for every person in this scene to be done for their spiritual growth. I think the corrective actions, the corrective measures that God keeps taking all the time, but it is for us to see with what attitude we do, as we mentioned. But this one very important line here where Swami says, see, God does not decree these calamities. That's what you also mentioned. There is individual karma, there is collective karma, there is national karma, there is karma at so many levels, and it's really difficult. It is as enigmatic as God himself, the law of karma. And I was just thinking, if you take any natural calamity, for example, you said everything is so beautifully interlinked and we can never really decipher the linkages that are there in this cosmic connection. If you take the Mumbai deluge, the natural calamity that happened in 2005, if you take that, between July 26, 2005 and July 27, 2005, that year, in 24 hours, Mumbai witnessed 944 millimeters of rain, which is one of the highest. It is one of the highest in India's history. So you had 37 inches of rain. A city that can handle 2.5 centimeters of rain had to deal with 94 centimeters of rain. Imagine it's asking a 2-year-old to carry a 100 kg load. Obviously, the city collapsed, and 1,000 people died. There were 14,000 homes that were destroyed, 30,000 vehicles gone, 5 billion rupees loss. Even today, July 26th in Mumbai is known as one of the most dreadful. It was the wettest day for that city. And Swami says all of this happens because of man's selfishness. Because Swami says natural calamities, as you were saying, natural calamities also we simply attribute it to nature, but not necessarily. Swami says God does not decree these calamities. If you go back and see the reasons for the Mumbai deluge, there is this Mithi river which flows through Mumbai, and when it rained that much, they say the Mithi river which used to flow through Mumbai, it always acted as a safety valve. So whenever there was excess rain, all the rainwater happily went into the sea because there was this river which for so many yugas had been doing that. And this river also absorbed the extra seawater that happened during high tides. So if you look at this Mumbai deluge, there was excess rain, there was a high tide, and at the same time, when you look at the course that the rainwater took, that's when people found out that when the Mumbai airport was done, at that time, the authorities had no hesitation in diverting the natural course of the Mithi river. And when this deluge happened, the river flowed in its natural course, because that is how the river has flowed for generations. It's just that the river is saying, this is the route I have always flowed to the sea. Now there are buildings, now there's an airport, why are you blaming me? And they also found that 7,000 acres of mangroves had been cut down for construction activities, again by private players, and they have flouted every line from the rule book. Buildings were constructed reclaiming land from the sea. So now when you analyze everything that happened, then you feel that if the Mithi river had been allowed to flow in its natural course, if people had respected the plantations and forests, if Mumbai had done its bit to upgrade its drainage system and not be the old antiquated one, as the city grew, the drainage system needed an upgrade much before time. If people were little proactive in their disaster management, then it would have just been a very refreshing day for Mumbaikars. They would have had just little more than normal rains, and which would have just gone to the sea. So what perhaps would have been a really boon for Mumbai, for Maharashtra, became a bane, because there are so many ways that we have not done our job well. But at the same time, as Swami very beautifully also says, yes, God does intervene. When there are situations like that, God does do his bit. And I think that is the compassion of Bhagawan. Even though we might have not done our job of following his instructions, we might have not done our part of what he says we should do. But when there is a calamity and we cry out for him, he's always there. And there are so many instances, at that point in time, when you look at the lives of people who were saved. There are any number of stories. There is this story of a person who, when he went to his home, all the roads are flooded, and there is 5 feet of water. His car was submerged, and he goes to his flat, and there already the water has come 3 feet, and so he and his wife, they get onto the kitchen platform somehow to protect themselves from the water, and the water was still going up and up, and they had a life-size picture of Bhagawan there, which was just 3.5 feet above the ground, and the water came, and the water stopped just few inches above that photograph. And they say what is most miraculous is this water rose 5 feet, just the neighboring flat. Only in their flat, the water stopped at 3 feet. In the neighboring flat, it went up to 5 feet. And on the Thursday, two days after this, on the Thursday, there was Amrit from that picture of Bhagavan. Swami saying, I will do my job. I will protect you. There are so many such stories. There was one Dr. Janaki, who was serving in these medical camps, and, they had nearly 12,000 food packets and all that. And she was stuck on the road, and she had to be rescued. And as soon as she came out of her car, there was someone with an umbrella, and, she was taken to a safe place. And long story, she was saved, and her car was submerged for 2 days in that water. And after 2 days, when she goes back, her car is still in that same place. But that is not the end of the story. The thing is, she goes and she turns the ignition, and the car starts, even though the car was submerged for 2 days. So I think there are so many such instances where we will see that, yes, God wants us to confirm, God wants us to learn our mistakes, God wants us so that, we grow, we evolve, and that is the only way that there will be a lasting solution to all these problems that we see around us. But whenever we approach, and if the prayers are sincere, God is always there to protect dharma, isn't it?
And there was this beautiful discourse that Swami was giving. I think it was in the wake of some natural calamity like a flood or something like that. And Swami was explaining this point, what we've been discussing so far, where Swami says these are all results of man's action and reckless behavior. And Swami was saying, that's why you're seeing earthquakes, too much of mining, and that's why you're seeing landslides and all of that. And then Swami said, see, these are natural causes. Man has acted in a certain way. Nature is reacting to that. So I cannot step in and change all of these things, and God will not in any way, remove these calamities or stop them from happening. But once they have happened, the response is there in my hand. And because like any other calamity, which we have seen in the recent past, Swami swiftly, jumped into action and called all the Sevadal and said that go and serve. And Swami said, this is the message,
Yes.
right? You all are in a situation where when a natural calamity happens, you might not be able to do. But you have the opportunity to respond in a compassionate manner when it happens. And Swami said, I come to teach that also. But the beautiful thing is, when Swami says that it's not like I cannot stop any of this. In his own way, Swami has shown many, many times, how he is in absolute control over the forces of nature. Beautiful episode is when, I think when Swami was traveling to Kerala or some particular southern state like that, there was an open audience, open auditorium in which Swami was giving a discourse and was about to give a discourse. Before that, Professor Kasturi had spoken, and they could see thick rain clouds coming from the far end. And, all the people assembled there, they're all looking up, because they didn't know when the heavens would open up and there's going to be a deluge of rain. And Professor Kasturi, roared and said, why do you have to fear? The master of nature is with us, and you don't have to fear that there's going to be a rain or anything like that. He just has to wave his hand and it would go away. Then Swami gave his discourse at the end of it, and still the dark clouds were there. They had not started raining. And Swami mentioned that, Kasturi told like this, that you don't have to fear. But as I am giving the discourse here, he is praying. Swami, I have given my word. Please let it not rain. Swami said his faith itself is shaking like that. Yeah. But Swami said, but I willed it, that nothing will happen. You will all go back safe. In fact, I was talking to one senior of mine. One day during darshan, Swami had gone for a round and gone off into the interview room, and it started raining. This was before the Kulwant Hall had been there. So whenever it would rain, all the devotees would go and sit under those shelters which used to be there in the edge of the compound. And when Swami comes out, they'll all come and sit in the rain on the sands.
Yes.
So Swami comes out after the first round of interviews, and all of them come, and Swami said, hey, it's raining, go back, go back, go back. And Swami kept saying, Pichi, they're coming and sitting in the rain. And then Swami turned to the students. The students had by then huddled on the portico, right, where there's shade. So Swami said, see, these devotees, madness, they're sitting in the rain. And then suddenly there was a twinkle in Swami's eye, and Swami said, hey boys, oka tamasha chustara? Swami asked, would you like to see a small fun event, something like that? And all of them were interested. And then Swami said, see, now I will step out. The moment I step out, the rain will stop. I'll give one round of darshan. The moment I step back into the portico, it'll start raining. Right? And Swami said, you ready? Are you all ready? Are you all ready to see? And they were all eagerly waiting. It was pouring rain. And Swami literally just put his feet on the lower portico, and like a tap was closed, it stopped. Right? And then Swami went for that round and taking letters and blessing. Literally, Swami's robe was drenched because the sand was wet and all that. But it was a good 40-45 minutes. Swami took a long round and came back. And then after Swami came back, 2 hands full of letters, Swami came to the portico. And Swami said, boys, ready? He said. And then some of them, Swami had told that when he comes back, it'll rain. And the boys were there. They said, Swami literally hopped onto the upper portico. He didn't even step up. He hopped on, and the moment he hopped on, it started like the taps were open again. And Swami was smiling. And, we've seen any number of times
Yes.
that he is really the master of the nature. But then, in spite of it, if Swami doesn't stop calamities, I think there is a message in that, and that is why this conversation is so beautiful and profound, where Swami is revealing that truth of why, what is the nature of his compassion when sometimes he chooses to be a witness when something wrong happens.
And just to add to that experience of the rain, we were actually eyewitnesses of one of those.
Okay.
So as students, what happened was one day Swami called everybody to come to the veranda, and all of us ran till the interview room. We were sitting there, and Swami was in fact telling all the students who were standing outside, come inside, come inside. It was not raining. Swami said, it is going to start now. It is going to start now. And then all the students were standing, they all, we all pushed in further, and literally each one sitting on another. And Swami said, come inside, come inside. And then Swami was just outside the interview room and almost leaning on that pillar which was there. And Swami just became straight like this, and Swami said, now. It will start now. And there was a downpour. And then Swami said, see, actually it was supposed to rain 3 days back. But because Onam festival was there, and it had to rain at that time, but I have postponed it so that it rains now. And he said, now it has to rain. Swami did, and then you could actually hear the quantum of rain just doubling almost. He showed how it is just that.
One of the other old students were narrating, and Swami had, I think, been to a village in the Nilgiri area. So Swami was to go for I think a temple was being constructed, and for the Prana Pratishtha, Swami had gone there. Many of these villages were like very new to Swami, because Swami was for the first time going around. Swami had gone to Coimbatore and would go to all these villages, and they're very pious people. So if a Mahatma is coming, they would give all the respect and all that. But they didn't know Swami for all other purposes. So when Swami had come and Swami did the Pran Pratishtha, I think there were some beautiful episodes related to that also, which only the Pujari, who was himself not very devoted to Swami, then he witnessed what Swami had done. So Swami came out, and very brief meetings. They had actually elaborate plans were made. After the meeting, Swami said, I want all of you to quickly go. He said, I'm going to leave now because it's going to rain very heavily. If you stay here, you will all find it difficult to go back to your homes, because they're, hilly areas, right? So Swami said, immediately all of you should go. And Swami quickly wound up, and he, went into the car, and Swami looked at all the devotees who were as part of the convoy. Swami said, quickly, let's leave. And the moment Swami left, it started raining. And apparently it rained for 2 or 3 days non-stop after that. The beautiful thing is that one episode made that entire region of people turn to Swami and become devoted, because apparently they had a belief system that when a divine person steps into the village, when he leaves, it'll rain. So for them, that was a sign that, Swami himself has come into our village. But that, the way Swami had timed it, and Swami said, all of us quickly go, because Swami had to go and I think reach the Ooty school before the rain becomes too heavy. But, any number of such episodes.
Like again, mine goes back to Swami's childhood. Just like we have so many episodes of Krishna Leela in Swami's childhood also, when it was really pouring, Swami takes all his playmates and Swami goes inside a cave, and Swami protects them from the rain, but it was not enough. So Swami just takes his finger and Swami just extends it like this.
The cave itself
The cave itself expands. Just like Krishna in the little finger protected all the Govardhana Gopikas and Gopalas. And I think any number of such Leelas, and I feel what is documented is just a drop, not even a drop.
Endlessly keep questioning, why did Krishna not stop the rain? Why did he lift the hill? So it's like that. Why did Swami do this and not do that?
Yeah.
And why did Swami stop a rain or a drought in one place,
Exactly.
but did not stop it? We will never be able to understand that.
How can a fish understand the enormity of the ocean? I think that's how Swami should say. And what is beyond the senses, if we are trying to understand through our limited perspective of senses, we'll never understand. But, as you were narrating all these episodes, this is summer and I was reminded of Kodaikanal. There is a very beautiful episode that happened in Kodai where I think sometime in 89, 90, that period where Swami comes back from a ride and Swami tells all the boys, okay, now all of you go for a walk. All the boys used to go for a walk along the around the Kodai lake, and Swami says, when you go, there is a hawker who is selling hats. So don't bargain with him. Whatever price he asks, you give him the price. And so this is Swami's instruction. So everybody goes and they see that there is that hawker. Swami says, in that turn, this hawker is there and he's having so many hats. And the hawker is surprised because you have like nearly 20, 30 guys coming, almost, running to him. And everybody saying, I want hats. And he says, are you sure all of you want it? Yeah, all of us want. And what is the price? He said, since all of you want, generally I say for 20, but I can give you for 15. He says, no. We'll give you 25. Are you sure you want to give? Yes. And so, he's unable to contain his joy that somebody, wants all his hats, because he says for 2 days he has not sold a hat because, it had become very cloudy and nobody was buying hats. In fact, when Swami sent these students, there was a senior devotee who was around and who somehow didn't get the mood of the moment. And he told Swami, why should boy buy hat, Swami? It's not going to rain now. It's they don't need the hats. And Swami said, boys don't need the hats, but that poor boy needs the money. He has not eaten for last 2 days, Swami said. And so all these boys go, and this guy is in tears because it was manna for him, manna from heaven. And the amount is paid, and boys ask him, do you know Sai Baba? He says, Sai Baba, I pray. I know he comes here, every summer. And then from his pocket, tattered shirt that he had, he takes out a newspaper clip. In that there is a figure of Swami. He says, this is what I pray to every day. This is Baba I know. And now everyone is in tears. And so the boys now are walking and they are thinking whether to wear the hat or not. Because they look at the sky and it was not like it's going to rain and it was not sunny. And from the corner of their eye, they see that red car is coming. Swami's car is coming. And Swami comes. Swami stops right in front of them. Swami lowers the window. And Swami says, hey boys, wear the hats. It's going to rain. and Swami just leaves. And it's as if somebody had just contained the clouds. And suddenly there is a huge downpour. So if you look at this incident, there are so many dimensions to it. One thing is, okay, Swami's control over nature. The second was how Swami was ensuring that everyone gets sensitized to the other, the difference between the rich and the poor. At the same time, there was a very big lesson for everyone else in terms of what is compassion, how, as we said in the beginning, we in our own minds have our own methods of understanding the ways of the divine. So every act of the divine has so many dimensions to it. The good thing is, Mr. Karanjia has asked so many of such questions. One question we dealt with now, and the next question he talks about, how will Swami bring that synthesis between rich and poor? Then he talks about, what will happen if there is a nuclear holocaust when the avatar is there? What is the avatar doing to prevent it? He has so many of those questions that people get when you just come to know of avatar. Just like I remember in Hislop's conversations, it is presented to Swami, there is so much of shortage of oil in this world. The whole world is going through energy crisis. Even today, as we are speaking, we are going through the energy crisis. And, the Prime Minister has asked for austerity. And somebody very beautifully said, austerity is the best solution for posterity. So anyway, but what we are trying to do is, everything, there are so many dimensions to everything that God does, and all these questions that are there that comes to everyone once they know of Bhagawan. So when it is presented to Swami, why don't you convert all the sea water into oil? Swami says, yeah, I can do that, but what happens if by mistake also someone drops a matchstick? So you're not even thinking. We want to advise God. We think we are better than God in trying to solve the problems. But as Swami very beautifully said, see, God can do anything instantly, but God will do only that what is good for our spiritual growth, what is good for our individual karma, what is good for society's karma, what is good for national karma, and what will bring everything back into harmony. Vesti, Samashti, Srishti, Parameshti. What will ensure that this cosmic cycle becomes harmonious? God will do only that. So we'll take up more questions. There are very interesting and very relevant topics which are there, which Mr. Karanjia has asked, and in the future episode we will deal with all that. Thank you so much. We hope that this helped us in understanding a little of the enigma that the divine is. At the same time, it also inspired us to do our part. God is very compassionate, but let us do our part so that His grace flows to us uninterruptedly, effortlessly. Thank you so much. Sai Ram.